fora, não postei muito vídeo dessa vez. Às vezes as pessoas falam lá, pô, tá mostrando muito, tá? Pô, mostrei, ok, 5%. Se tá impressionando isso aí, porra, legal. Legal, 5% tá?
Then yeah, okay, maybe there wouldn't be a third match. But if the fight is competitive and if the fight goes to a decision, then 1,000,000% they have to do a rubber match. Of course, Ankalaev came out and he's not shy of tweeting, or his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, whichever way around it is, he said, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to have any say in it because you're going to be sleeping and on your way to the tire shop again. Of course, these two don't like each other. It's always better when there's that little sprinkle of, I won't say hatred, dislike, and I'm sure down the line these guys will have a lot of respect for one another, but at this moment in time they are mortal enemies, so they're talking a bit of shit. They're getting a little bit personal. It doesn't matter because we as fans, we absolutely love it. Now, there has been a drop-off in support for Alex Pereira. I've said this on another video, but I was quite blown away by this. I did a seminar in Thailand in July, and when I was there, I did a Q&A. There was about 200 people, and they asked me who my favorite fighter was. I said, I don't have one, but who's yours? And I said, I'll throw out some names, and by way of an applause, you guys cheer, and that'll tell me who your favorite is. So I said, Islam Makhachev. I said, Ilia Topuria. Very positive, loud cheer.
Ankalaev just did a fantastic job of shutting down the scariest guy in the division. It was so interesting because the consequences of exchanging with Pereira are so high, but also Ankalaev. Ankalaev has knocked a lot of people out. Ankalaev has knocked out some of the best guys in the division, and he only lost one time.
Alex Pereira is ready to get his belt back at UFC 320 against Magomed Ankalaev. The former champion is training hard and has sent a warning to Ankalaev that he will take his revenge and won't even give him a rematch. Alex Pereira reveals that he's fully prepared for the rematch, but explains that he only shares about 5% of his training footage online. He says this is because he doesn't want to expose his techniques to the public, and Pereira adds that he has been working hard behind the scenes and prefers to keep most of his preparation private, rather than putting too much of it on the internet.
Reassistiu a sua primeira luta contra o Ankalaev? O que você achou dessa luta? O que você pretende, que você poderia mudar, se puder falar, né?
Pô, eu assisti algumas vezes, né? Pô, não assisti tantas vezes que nem as outras, é claro. Acho que foi o suficiente, né? Pra ver ali onde teve as falhas, né? É óbvio que teve algumas falhas ali. A gente tá fazendo treinos ali com a galera, pô, pessoal, boa trocação. Eu trouxe algumas pessoas de fora, não postei muito vídeo dessa vez. Às vezes as pessoas falam lá, pô, tá mostrando muito, tá? Pô, mostrei, ok, 5%. Se tá impressionando isso aí, porra, legal. Legal, 5% tá?
Alex Pereira says he doesn't expect a trilogy fight to happen. He explains that while the UFC makes the final decision and he's prepared to face whoever they choose, he feels his opponent's recent loss has likely removed him from the title picture.
Yeah, and if you go out there, you beat him, are we looking at a trilogy here, or do you think it not necessarily works that way, given your credentials in the sport compared to his?
Yeah, I think the story will be over. You know, it's obviously out of my control. It's up to the UFC, and if they want to do it again, I mean, I'll fight anyone. But, you know, to be honest, you know, from everything we've seen, I think with him losing, he's not going to fight for the title anymore.
Michael Bisping responds to Alex Pereira's claim that Magomed Ankalaev would not deserve a trilogy if he loses the rematch, calling it a strange stance since many believe Ankalaev won their first fight. Bisping argues that a third fight would normally be inevitable, but admits Pereira's point holds weight if he wins in dominant fashion, coming out aggressive, overwhelming Ankalaev and finishing him convincingly. However, if the rematch is competitive or goes to a decision, Bisping insists a trilogy would be unavoidable.
Alex Pereira came out and said, if Ankalaev loses, it's unlikely that he gets another title shot. And that's kind of a statement that leaves you scratching your head a little bit. Let's remember, we all know Magomed won the first one. If Pereira wins the second one, well, of course, you do a rubber match. You do the third one. You settle it once and for all. There could be a little bit of truth to that statement if Pereira goes out there and smokes him, dominates him from the opening bell, is super aggressive, pushes him away, mocks him, disrespects him, knocks him out cold. He can just say, listen, I had a bad night at the office. Look at what I did. I'm fresh. I'm motivated. I am not taking things for granted. I just destroyed him and made it look easy. If he was to do that, then yeah, okay, maybe there wouldn't be a third match. But if the fight is competitive and if the fight goes to a decision, then 1,000,000% they have to do a rubber match.
The MMA fans were also surprised at the statement from Podin, as Magomed Ankalaev never ducked and immediately accepted the rematch because he wanted to give the former champion a fair chance. Even Alex Pereira admitted that securing the rematch came easily. He explains that he was confident it would happen right after their first fight, with the only delay being his recovery. He adds that the UFC scheduled the bout around his condition rather than the champion's preference, and while his opponent wanted an earlier date, the timing ultimately worked out in Pereira's favor.
Impus algo e, pô, eu consegui o que eu quis.
No, it wasn't complicated to get the rematch. You know, as soon as I got out of that fight, I knew I was going to have the immediate rematch. It was just a matter of letting my body heal. You know, I had a lot of injuries, a lot of things. But, you know, him as the champion, you know, it just goes to show that he's got no say in anything. You know, in the end, whatever I spoke to the UFC about and whatever was convenient for me is what's ended up happening. You know, he wanted to fight in July. He wanted to fight all these times and didn't happen. So it came out to be, you know, just as I needed it, just as I wanted it.
Michael Bisping comments on the surprising drop in support for Alex Pereira, recalling a Q&A session he held in Thailand where fans cheered loudly for other big fighters, but went completely silent when he mentioned Pereira. He says he was shocked, especially since Pereira had been the fighter of the year and consistently stepped up in big moments. Bisping notes that it seems fans turned away from him just after one loss and admits he's curious to see how the crowd reacts to Pereira at the T-Mobile Arena.
Now, there has been a drop-off in support for Alex Pereira. I've said this on another video, but I was quite blown away by this. I did a seminar in Thailand in July, and when I was there, I did a Q&A. There was about 200 people, and they asked me who my favorite fighter was. I said, I don't have one, but who's yours? And I said, I'll throw out some names, and by way of an applause, you guys cheer, and that'll tell me who your favorite is. So I said, Islam Makhachev. I said, Ilia Topuria. Very positive, loud cheer. I said, Alex Pereira. And there wasn't a single sound. Now, if you saw my video where I talked about this before, I apologize for repeating myself. But I was truly in shock because, as I said, he was the fighter of the year. He was the man stepping up all the time. And now all of a sudden, after one little loss, people have jumped off the bandwagon. So I'm curious to see how this goes down and what the reception will be at the T-Mobile Arena.
Michael Bisping not only points out the drop in fan support for Alex Pereira, but also explains why Alex Pereira lost the first fight. He says Ankalaev fought with too much caution, staying on the outside and not pushing forward with enough urgency. According to Bisping, that hesitation cost him the chance to secure a clear win, leaving the fight close enough for Pereira to take it.
He went up against Magomed Ankalaev. He lost the belt. He lost a decision pretty soundly, to be honest. And he didn't really do much in the fight. He didn't pull the trigger. Of course, he was on an insane schedule. He was fighting frequently. Maybe he was a little burned out. And he was also flying all over the world. And we spoke about this at the time. I did videos on this. He was in Australia. He was all over the place. He was maximizing on the opportunity of being the champion and trying to rake in all the money that he could and just enjoy the moment. Why not? There's nothing wrong with that. However, what comes first is the fights. And I do believe that was a factor in the Magomed Ankalaev fight, why he lost the fight, because he did look a little bit flat.
John Wood also agrees with Bisping and suggests Alex Pereira may not have taken his first fight with Magomed Ankalaev as seriously as he should have, noting that he saw him at countless events worldwide during that training camp. He explains that Pereira appeared to be everywhere, making him question how a proper camp could have been put together for such a high-stakes fight. Wood admits he could be wrong and that maybe Pereira was training harder than it seemed, but he feels some details may have been overlooked. He adds that Pereira likely learned from that experience and expects him to return with every base covered for the rematch.
But I'll tell you this, I travel a lot. And I'm at almost every event all over the world, not just UFC, but small shows, big shows, little shows, you know, everything. And I swear to you, when he was in that camp, I saw that dude at every one of those shows. Like, he was at Karate Combat, he's in Australia, he's here, he's there, he's that, you know. And so for me, I was just like, man, like, how are you preparing for a fight, you know, of that magnitude? Like, while you're away for a week, while you're away where you're this, I would see him training in the training rooms, you know? And it's just, I just don't know that you can put a proper camp in. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe that's what works for him, and maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe I was only seeing him for a day or two. Who knows? But it just seemed like he was everywhere during that camp, and I feel like that maybe there was some T's and I's that weren't dotted and crossed, and I think that obviously he probably learned from that and is going to come back and make sure that all that stuff is, all those bases is covered for this one, if that was the case.
Chael Sonnen believes that the rematch with Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 320 creates more problems than it solves. He questions why the fight is even happening, pointing out that no one had been calling for it, and that Ankalaev had already beaten Pereira once. Sonnen finds it odd that Ankalaev aggressively pushed for another matchup, asking what he really gains from it. He also wonders what happens if Ankalaev wins again, since the logical step would be then a trilogy, something fans never demanded in the first place. For Sonnen, the situation feels unnecessary and potentially messy for the division.
He wins, to be positive on the Alex Pereira side. Would you drop the belt and go up? Or
No.
I mean,
No, they won't let him.
Stick around and fight the winner of Prochazka and Roundtree, or
No, he's not going to be in there with Prochazka again, most likely. Who's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But he's just not going to be in there with him again. But therein lies a part of the problem. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I don't know what Ankalaev gets if he wins. He already beat him. Nobody asked for this rematch, including Pereira. Ankalaev asked for it. It was a little bit odd. Ankalaev actually got a little bit nasty, calling, but come fight me. It's like, he just did. What is it that you planned that you're bringing the belt this time? I mean, it really was a little bit of a confusing situation. And then to your point, what happens if he comes and picks it up? Well, the right thing to do would be to go to the trilogy. So now you're telling me we not only got to see him fight Ankalaev again, which we didn't want the first time, we didn't ask for it this time. Now you're telling me we might have to see it for 10 more rounds. I'm just sharing. I think it creates more problems than it solves. That's what I think.
Chael Sonnen discusses the implications of Alex Pereira winning the rematch, stressing the need to settle the rivalry definitively. He questioned whether the fans would remain engaged with repeated matchups and says the outcome is to be respected. Sonnen explains that if Pereira wins, it proves he has overcome the division's toughest challenge, while a loss would provide clarity for his next step. In either case, he believes Pereira could transition to heavyweight, bringing him closer to his ultimate goal.
Will you come out and support and watch and be into the fight 2 more times? Because if Pereira wins, that's the only honorable thing to do. Right? You got to settle the score. Pereira knows this better than anybody. So, what do you do in that case? I mean, if Pereira wins, and we got to go back to Unk. If Pereira wins and we're not going to go with Unk, anybody in that top stratosphere, Pereira's already beat. And with a loss, the answer for Pereira will be very clear. And it will be what he's wanted all along. He now joins the heavyweight division.
On the other hand, Alex Pereira says he's fully driven to reclaim the belt from Magomed Ankalaev. He acknowledges the controversy surrounding their first fight, noting that many felt the result should have been a draw, which would have allowed him to keep the title. Pereira insists he wasn't at his best at that night and promises a far better showing in the rematch. He adds that he doesn't need a knockout to win, expressing confidence that his complete skill set is enough to beat Ankalaev in every respect.
Back to Magomed, when you see the footage of him going home with the belt that was yours, and all the hoopla and stuff, how does that make you feel?
People say that he won, people say that he lost, people say that I win, like very contested, right? Why you don't give it a draw and a left to the belt?
So you are very motivated to get the belt back.
Absolutely. I can't wait for this moment to happen again, and it's gonna be a very different fight. That day was not the same Alex Pereira, so if come the regular Alex Pereira, it's already more than that. But imagine now if it's different. It doesn't have to be a knockout, but I feel that I have enough game to do whatever I want with this guy.
Alex Pereira explains that wrestling has always been a big part of his training, not just for this camp. He credits Glover Teixeira for shaping his style by adding grappling to his striking base and says he has been consistently working on wrestling for nearly 4 years. Pereira notes that while many fans may only notice his striking in fights, Behind the scenes, he trains wrestling and grappling regularly to stay competitive in the UFC.
Are you upping the wrestling training? Are you doing more wrestling training in this training camp?
If he's training the same, he's always training. A lot of wrestling in our training. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. That's what built him to be who he is in the UFC. It was Glover style of wrestling, the way that he trained. Even guys go, oh, he keep his hands down. Look at his head. Okay, but go and try to hit his head on the fight. See if it's hard. See if you can. You know what I mean? So he just showed things that he wants to show. He's always focused on the wrestling for the MMA training, not only the strike. It's been almost 4 years that he's around here now training wrestling like that. You know what I mean? But that's since day one. He was already an outstanding striker. So Glover helped him to put all that grappling together, to put the takedown defense, to put everything, right? So he's constantly trying to evolve.
Light heavyweight Modestas Belkakis gives his take on the rematch, saying he expects Magomed Ankalaev to get the win. He acknowledges Alex Pereira's talent but believes Ankalaev will elevate his performance and stick to his game plan more effectively this time. Belkakis adds that Pereira's striking, while dangerous, isn't overwhelming and feels Ankalaev's southpaw stance will be a difficult puzzle to solve for him.
I still think Ankalaev's gonna do the job. As amazing as Pereira is, I think Ankalaev will even be stepping up his game even more and implementing it even more. I knew the strikes from Pereira's side wasn't quite as much, but I do feel that southpaw style is going to be a difficult puzzle for him to deal with.
Heavyweight contender Curtis Blades is backing Alex Pereira for the rematch. He praised his toughness for overcoming injury and battling through an illness similar to one he once faced himself. He says that if the opponent steps into the cage fully healthy, he expects him to win the rematch.
I'm going to go with Pereira because of the injury, and also I heard he had this same illness that I had. And I know how that feels. So yeah, as long as he's healthy, I go with Pereira.
Former UFC heavyweight fighter Martin Boudet says the matchup is very difficult to call, noting that Alex Pereira didn't look like himself in the first fight and might approach the rematch with more aggression. He views it as a 50-50 contest, but admits he would prefer to see Pereira come out on top and get his belt back.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one to decide. We will see, because Alex Pereira in their last fight seems like something was not right about him, because he was like not like we are usually used to see him fighting. So we will see if he come in like more aggressive fashion into that fight. So I got that fight like 50-50.
Okay. Who would you give the edge to, though, if you had to pick someone? Who do you think gets it done?
I would like Alex.
Similarly, Carlos Prates predicts Alex Pereira will win the rematch, saying Pereira has had enough time to study and correct his mistakes. He expects him to enter the cage prepared to deliver a knockout.
I think Pereira gonna win. You know, he got a break on his career. You know, he saw all his mistakes, you know, and fix everything, and now I think he gonna step on the cage and gonna knock Ankalaev out.
And that wraps up today's video, and we hope you've enjoyed it. Share your thoughts about this matchup in the comment section, and subscribe to our channel to get more updates about upcoming UFC encounters.